Is Ireland a British Isle? This seems like an innocent enough question, doesn't it? Well, no. No, it's not. I can feel a flame war coming, but let's see, is the island of Ireland a British Isle? Ireland, throughout the geographical world, tends to be clumped together with the island known as Great Britain in what is known as the British Isles. And today, a number of Irish resent this, saying Ireland isn't British. Because of this, Irish politicians tend to describe the islands as these isles, which is not a good replacement by any means. So is Ireland a British Isle? Well, first off, let's look at history. The earliest known names for the islands come from Greco-Roman writings. Sources actually include a merchant's handbook from roughly around 500 BC, which describes sea routes. The two main islands were called Erna, which is Ireland, and Alban, for present-day Great Britain. These writers refer to the inhabitants as the Britannia, which is possibly a form of ancient Celtic meaning people of the forms. And out of this name, collective terms for the islands were formed, such as the Britannic Islands and the Britannic Isles. This is also where Brittany in France got its name. Jumping forward in time, with Caesar's invasions of Britain in both 54 and 55 AD, the term Britannia was introduced. Around AD 70, Pliny the Elder, in his Naturalis Historia, described the islands he considered to be Britannia as including Great Britain, Ireland, Orkney, the Isle of Man, and other smaller islands. He refers to Great Britain as the island called Britannia. After the Romans left Great Britain in 410 AD, the term British Isles fell largely out of use, but it still was occasionally used. By the way, if you want to remember when the Romans left, an easy way to remember is to think of them leaving at 10 past 4, or 410 AD. We skip forward in time, and the Oxford English Dictionary asserts that the first published use in the English language of British Isles was around 1621. But according to other sources, it could be traced back as far as the 12th century, when English, as we know it, was not really a thing yet. Before the colonial times, the term wasn't entirely necessary, so it wasn't until the 1700s that the term rose from obscurity thanks to British nationalism. This British nationalism and pride, in turn, was an annoyance to the Irish nationalists, causing a lot of the bother we have with the term today. So, jumping forward again to today, as we can see, historically, the British Isles were the term for the islands during the Greco-Roman period, which then fell into obscurity after hundreds of years of use, being resurrected during the 1600s and becoming a term of nationalistic pride in the 1700s. But long since then, with the dismantlement of the great empires of the world, this term has once again become a purely geographic term, with no real meaning attached to it by the world community. The only people who attach any sort of nationalistic meaning to the term are of course the Irish nationalists. So back to the question, is Ireland a British Isle? Well, the answer is yes, no, and maybe. I know this is a cop-out, but please hear me out. So as we've seen, the term British comes from an old word for Celtic peoples, and studies show that the inhabitants of all of these islands are really closely related. Thus yes, in this sense, Ireland is of course a British Isle. The term has also been around for around 2,500 years and of course is still recognised today. Northern Ireland is still part of the United Kingdom, so thus you could maybe argue that part of Ireland is British in that sense. And the Irish government don't recognise the term, and the British government no longer rule the Republic, so you could say no, Ireland isn't British. Well, now that I'm sure absolutely no one is happy, let's look at some alternatives for the names of the British Isles. Proposed more neutral alternatives include the very uninspired Britain and Ireland, the Atlantic Islands, the Atlantic Archipelago, Anglo-Celtic Isles, the British Isles, and the islands of the North Atlantic. But my guess is that the two countries, when working with each other, will continue just to use these lands for a long, long time. If you like what you've seen here, please subscribe and feel free to check out my other videos. And if you're into this sort of content, please take a look at my friend the Archives channel, as I'm sure between the two of us we have something that would interest you.